Kadam Prabhu, can you hear me? Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Krishna Krishna.
If it is Hare Krishna Prabhu, if it is not shared, can we read from the book, Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita book, please? Hare Krishna Prabhu, Nandavraj Prabhu.
I'm not sure where we left off.
Yeah, I know, Prabhu.
Mataji, you can read then.
Okay, then. Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Sitanda
Hare
Maji
Krishna
going to
ji.
read for a few minutes. Prabhupada Lilamrita.
Yeah.
Thank you.
This is the chapter 22. Swami invites the hippies, and page number 550. The temple Mukunda and his friends had obtained was on Frederick Street in the Haight-Ashbury district, like the temple at 26 2nd Avenue in New York. It was a small storefront with a display window facing the street. A sign over the window read Sri Sri Radha Krishna Temple. Mukunda and his friends had also rented a 3-room apartment for Swamiji on the 3rd floor of the adjoining building. It was a small, bare, run-down apartment facing the street. Followed by several carloads of devotees and curious seekers, Srila Prabhupada arrived at 518 Frederick Street and entered the storefront, which was decorated only by a few madras clothes on the wall. Taking his seat on a cushion, he laid a kirtan and then spoke, inviting everyone to take up Krishna consciousness. After his lecture, he left the storefront and walked next door and up the 2 flights of stairs to his apartment. As he entered his apartment number 32, he was followed not only by his devotees and admirers, but also by reporters from Sri Francisco's main newspapers, the Chronicle and the Examiner. While some devotees cooked his lunch and Ranchor unpacked his suitcase, Swamiji talked with the reporters who sat on the floor taking notes on their pads. Reporter, downstairs, you said you were inviting everyone to Krishna consciousness. Does that include the Haight-Ashbury Bohemians and Britons? Prabhupada, yes, everyone, including you or anybody else, be he or she what is called an acid-head or hippie or something else. But once he is accepted for training, he becomes something else from what he had been before. That's I'm stopping here. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
So if somebody lets me know when I'm supposed to begin, that would be nice.
Yes, Prabhu, you can start now.
You can start now.
Oh.
Start the Srimad Bhagavatam class.
Jai. Hare Krishna. We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam this morning. Jai Sila Das here. Hopefully there's a few devotees who are participating this morning. I'm sure there is. We're reading from the Bhagavatam 4th canto, chapter 28, text number 58. Puranjana becomes a woman in the next life. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Pravishto Navabudyate. Translation and purport. By His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. The 5 stores are the 5 working sensory organs. So this verse is connecting to the previous verse, 57, where different aspects of the material manifestation have been mentioned. I'll just read that, the English. In that city, in the material body, there are 5 gardens, 9 gates, 1 protector, 3 apartments, 6 families, 5 stores, 5 material elements, and 1 woman who is Lord of the house. So it's quite an interesting verse, quite inviting. You're like, wow, what are the 5 gardens? What's the gates? There's apartments, there's families, there's 5 stores, busy place, 5 material elements, and 1 woman who is Lord of the house. And then it says, my dear friend, the 5 gardens are the 5 objects of sense enjoyment. Okay. And the protector is the life air, which passes through the 9 gates. Okay. The 3 apartments are the chief ingredients, fire, water, and earth. The 6 families are the aggregate total of the mind and 5 senses. And then today's verse. The 5 stores are the 5 working sensory organs. They transact their business through the combined forces of the 5 elements, which are eternal. Behind all this activity is the soul. The soul is a person and an enjoyer in reality. However, because he is now hidden within the city of the body, he is devoid of knowledge. Srila Prabhupada's purport. The living entity enters the material creation with the aid of the 5 elements, earth, water, fire, air, and ether, and thus his body is formed. Although the living entity is working from within, he is nonetheless unknown. The living entity enters the material creation, but because he is bewildered by the material energy, he appears to be hidden. The bodily conception of life is prominent because of ignorance. Navabudyate. Intelligence is described in the feminine gender, but owing to her prominence in all activities, she is described in this verse as Adhishaha, the controller. The living entity lives by means of fire, water, and food grains. Can I just get a check? Someone, one of the organizers, please, are you still getting my signal? Because my phone has gone blank on the screen. And
all clear, Prabhu. Very nice. Everything clear. Audio, video, both.
Okay.
Good.
Okay,
Thank you,
thank you very much. Okay, thank you. Where we would just go back a little bit. The living entity lives by means of fire, water, and food grains. I'm going to go back further. Hold on. I got thrown there. I'll go back to the bodily conception of life is prominent because of ignorance. Navabudyate. Intelligence is described in the feminine gender, but owing to her prominence in all activities, she is described in this verse as Adhisha, the controller. So it may be worth just mentioning, you know, in our Vedic culture, generally the ladies are towards the background and the men present themselves in the foreground. That's the way it used to be in olden times. You know, what woman was always protected and yeah, like that. So, but here it's very interesting how we're saying it. The intelligence is described in the feminine gender, but owing to her prominence in all activities, she is described in this verse as the controller or the Adhisha. So all the living entities want to control whether you're male or female, whether you're a cat or a dog or whatever. We're always trying to control. So that happens at different times in different ways. And the amazing thing is that we all think we are the controller when actually it's not the case. But we'll discuss a little further on that. The living entity lives by means of fire, water, and food grains. It is through the combination of these 3 that the body is maintained. Consequently, the body is called Prakriti, material creation. All the elements gradually combine to form flesh, bone, blood, and so on. All these appear as various apartments. It is said in the Vedas that the digested foods are ultimately divided into three. The solid portion becomes stool, and the semi-liquid portion turns into flesh. The liquid portion turns yellow and is again divided into three. One of these liquid portions is called urine. Similarly, the fiery portion is divided into three, and one is called bone. Out of the five elements, fire, water, and food grains are very important. These three are mentioned in the previous verse, whereas sky or ether and air are not mentioned. This is all explained in Bhagavad Gita 13:20. Prakritim purusham chaiva vidyanadi ubhavapi vikramscha gunamschaiva vidhi prakriti sambhavan. Quote, material nature and the living entities should be understood to be beginningless. Their transformations and the modes of matter are products of material nature, end quote. Prakriti, material nature, and Purusha, the living entity, are eternal. When they both come in contact, there are different reactions and manifestations. All of them should be considered the results of the interaction of the three modes of material nature. Om Agana Timarandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Grave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance. My spiritual masters forced me to open my eyes with the torchlight of transcendental knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto his lotus feet. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namane. Namaste Sarasvati Devam Gauravani Pacharane Nevasesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarane. Translation once more. The five stores are the five working sensory organs. They transact.
Hare Krishna, devotees. I think Prabhu's phone has died. We have lost connection. Just wait for a few minutes. While we are waiting, maybe we can recite the sloka. Siddhanta Mataji, you can share the sloka. We can recite because Prabhu did not have time to recite. Mataji, you can start, then we'll see if we catch up.
Vipanastu kriya saktir bhuta prakritir abhayayah sakti adhisha pumam statra prabhishto na bhudhayate. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Anybody else? Yeah.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Dandavat pranam.
Pranam.
Vipanastu kriya shaktir bhut prakriti avyaya shaktadhisha pumam stvatra pravishto navabudhyate. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Anybody else? Okay, we can
Can
go
I
to
recite?
synonyms.
Prabhuji, I'm reciting.
Yes, Prabhu, go ahead.
Vipanastu kriya shaktir bhuta prakritir avyaya shakti adishaha pumam stva atra pravishto nava bodhyate. Hare Krishna.
Anybody for synonyms?
Yes, I can read, Prabhu.
Yes, thank you, Mataji.
Vipanaha stores to then Kriya Sakti, the energy for activities or the working senses. Bhuta, the five gross elements, Prakriti, the material elements, Abhaya, eternal, Sakti, the energy, Adhisha, controller, Puman, man, two, then Atra, here, Pravishta, enter, Na, does not, Avudhate, become subjected to knowledge. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Mataji. Anybody
Hare
like
Krishna.
to read the translation?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, can I speak?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you.
Okay, Hare Krishna. The five stores are the five working sensory organs. They transact their business through the combined forces of five elements, which are eternal. Behind all this activity is the soul. The soul is a person and an enjoyer in reality. However, because he is now hidden within the city of the body, he is devoid of knowledge. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Okay, I think we go through the purport. I'll try and call Prabhuji if you can reconnect. In the meantime, just somebody can read the purport. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Go ahead, Mataji. Thank you.
Purport by Sila Prabhupada ki Jai. The living entity enters the material creation with the aid of five elements: earth, water, fire, air, and ether, and thus his body is formed. Although the living entity is working from within, he is nonetheless unknown. The living entity enters the material creation, but because he is bewildered by the material energy, he appears to be hidden. The bodily conception of life is prominent because of ignorance. Navabuddhyate. Intelligence is described in the feminine gender, but owing to her prominence in all activities, she is described in these verses as Adhisha, the controller. The living entity lives by means of fire, water, and food grains. It is through the combination of these three that the body is maintained. Consequently, the body is called Prakriti, material creation. All the elements gradually combine to form flesh, bone, blood, and so on. All these appear as various apartments. It is said in the Vedas that the digested foods are ultimately divided into three. The solid portion becomes stool, and the semi-liquid portion turns into flesh. The liquid portion turns yellow and is again divided into three. One of these liquid portion is called urine. Similarly, the fiery portion is divided into three, and one is called bone. Out of the five elements, fire, water, and food, grains are very important. These three are mentioned in the previous verse, whereas sky, ether, and air are not mentioned. This is all explained in Bhagavad Gita 13:20. Prakritim purusham chaiva vidyanadi ubhavapi vikarams cha gunams chaiva vidhi prakriti sambhavan. Material nature and the living entity should be understood to be beginningless. Their transformation in the modes of matter are products of material nature. Prakriti, material nature, and Purusha, the living entity, are eternal. When they both come in contact, they are different creations and manifestations. All of them should be considered the results of the interactions of the three modes of material nature. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Okay, in the meantime, I'm trying to contact Jai Prabhu, but it's not available. One second, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
This is the voicemail box of.
Okay, so we just have to discuss because we lost contact with Prabhu. I think his phone was playing up and we're completely out of. So anybody like to give a commentary on this or for discussion? Abhay Prabhu, you can start. So just following on from yesterday. Description of five elements. Abhay Chana Prabhu, you there? Okay, anybody else like to give a comment? Okay, we have Sri Krishna Prabhu. Prabhuji, can you just briefly go through this? Because we have lost Jaya Prabhu. Sri Krishna Prabhu, you there? Anybody else there want to go through this verse? Hare Krishna, everyone. Sorry, we have lost Jai Prabhu. So we'll just discuss his verse. So Krishna Prabhu, you can start. Just give an overview what to think of this verse. Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay, is this somebody's sharing the screen, Prabhu, this one?
The scene has been shared already. We can ask Sitani Manji to share the screen. Mataji, you can share the screen?
Hare Krishna.
Oh,
Oh,
Prabhu's
he's back. Yeah, welcome back.
Harry Ball, this phone, I don't know what's happening. Somebody called in the middle of the thing, and I can't see anything. But can you see me or not?
We can see you, Prabhu, nicely. We can hear you also.
I've got somebody's meeting stuff on the screen. I don't know.
Now we'll take that out. Yeah.
Oh, gee. What a fiasco. Oh, boy. Trying to, Chanchalam hi mana Krishna, Arjuna says, trying to control the mind is like controlling the wind. It's all over the place. Oh, boy. Oh, Hare Krishna. So should I just continue, maybe? Is that the idea?
Yes, Prabhu, yes. Sir. We have already started, we read the purport again. So you just continue where you left off.
Oh, so, okay. So you read the purport again.
Yeah, because we lost it, we're not sure if we're going to get back.
Okay. Yes, fair enough, Prabhu. Okay. So we were somewhere. Oh, gee. Was I through the purport, or had I finished it?
Yes, Prabhu. We finished the purport. You were just beginning to give a analysis of the purport. That's where we lost you.
I think that was the idea. Oh boy. So the soul, hold on, my mind is reeling. And that's the way of Arjuna in the Battle of Kurukshetra. He was very overwhelmed by his circumstances. That was Arjuna in the Battle of Kurukshetra. All I'm doing is sitting in front of a screen and I'm overwhelmed. I don't know if funny. That's so hilarious, actually. So what I'm trying to discuss is how the living entity is mentioned in this verse, that he is practically forgotten. We're so covered by this illusory energy, and it's done in such an amazing way that it appears that the actual reality is this material body connected to the senses, the sense objects, the desires, and all the different attributes of existence in this phenomenal experience of life. But the Bhagavatam is relentlessly, it's mentioned that the only way to understand this, and we were talking about revelation, the Lord reveals everything in due course. If we take this process, so it's a very clear process for being able to have reality distinguished from illusion, have it revealed to us in due course of time. And it's only possible by repeated hearing. It's just like we've mentioned many times, every day we go about our activities and then we get dirty. We have to take a bath. Just the nature of the material energy is that it's very polluting. So you have to constantly take a bath and again become clean. And again, you get soiled. Just by going to the bathroom, by perspiration, by eating, by all of it's a very so we have to keep cleaning everything. In a similar way, we have some revelation and we think, yes, now I've got it. Yeah, this makes sense. Yes. And then what happens? The material energy, through subtle and gross connection to it, pollutes our consciousness in so many different ways. And instead of being the Prakriti, we think ourselves to be the Purusha. We do it when the sun comes out. It's in the middle of winter. The sun comes out. Immediately, the impetus for enjoyment arises. Let me now enjoy. The sun has come out. Oh, that's good. Now I can enjoy in this way or that way. So this is going on continually. And Srila Prabhupada said, as long as we have this material body, there will always be attraction to the sense objects and material desire and so on. But dhiras tatra namuyati, the sober person is not overwhelmed. Funny, I don't feel very sober because I get overwhelmed really quickly. So it reveals my nature as being, yeah, anyway, I won't deprecate or go, yeah, like that. But anyway, dhiras tatra namuyati, they're not bewildered by such a change. And again, just as I'm saying that, that verse comes to mind. Simple verses, but that is the essence. Last night we were having some discussions with our little sangha about Shastra, and this point came up that Bhagavad Gita is the essence of everything, and everything is contained in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna speaking himself, and he says, "Dehinosmin yata dehe komaram yovanam jara." So he tries to help in a very, very practical way, help us to understand what's actually going on. We are continually passing in this body from childhood to youth to old age. And from old age, you will go take another body. And the self-realized soul is not bewildered by this change called death. Neither is he bewildered in the change from boyhood to youth to old age. It's such a powerful verse. And if it's contemplated, then we can gain some understanding, some appreciation. Yeah, and we do that. That's why we become devotees, because we hear these verses spoken by the Lord, and they make sense to us, and they're logical and very, very real. Yes, I was a child. Now I am a young man or woman, but I'm still the same person, but my body has changed. There's something different between me and this body. And like it or not, the youthful body will go on and become old. And I will still be the same person, but the faculties and facilities that I have will have changed. And then we're being pushed forward to old age. And then finally death comes. So Krishna says, don't be bewildered by this. For one who is born, death is certain. For one who has died, birth is certain. In the unavoidable discharge of your duty, don't lament, because we have one body after another through 8,400,000 species of life. And here we have Bhagavad Gita giving us all of this knowledge. And we go on, not that we talked about this last night, that it's not that Bhagavad Gita is, it is described as the ABC, so you could say it's fundamental, and we could go on to Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srimad Bhagavatam, like that. But if you think about ABC, oh, it's very fundamental, you could say, but it's the very essence of language. You have to have ABC, otherwise you can't have language. So it's the Bhagavatam is, yeah, you understand what I'm saying. So this repeated visit to the pages of the Bhagavatam, the stories of Puranjana becoming a woman in his next life, absolutely amazing. And we should understand that even a little advancement on this path protects one from the greatest fear. If we're able to make progress, Srila Prabhupada definitely encouraged, or emphatically encouraged, his devotees not to say, oh, well, I'll do so much in this life, and then next life I can do some more. He said there's always danger, even on the royal road, there's danger. So we may have human form this time, we may be able to access the pages of Bhagavatam and discuss these high things and think, oh, yes, I'm making a little progress. But Srila Prabhupada said, don't trust any future, however pleasant it may be. We don't know what can happen in the very next moment. So it's a very dangerous place. So we have to take full advantage. And this is being done to help us understand in so many ways. So Narada Muni is giving this explanation that King Prachinabhari is not able to directly hear the message that he should hear, that he has to not become implicated in the performance of so many sacrifices, that actually as a devotee, a pure devotee of the Lord, he has to go beyond that to the Param Dharma. Yeah, isn't it? There's Dharma. It's an interesting point. Krishna establishes that he's coming to establish Dharma and to annihilate the miscreants. But then later at the end of Bhagavad Gita, he says that Sarva Dharma and Parityaga, you have to abandon all Dharma. So one minute he's establishing it, next minute he says, but he doesn't say to give up Dharma and go to adharmic activities or sinful vida. He's saying give up conventional religious activities and responsibilities and come to the paradharma. Surrender to me. That will bring you the complete perfection of life. So, yeah, there's so many aspects of this, and becoming a woman in the next life has been very detailed, explained. He became, who was it? Vidarbhi, the wife of the daughter of King Vidarbha. The daughter of King Vidarbha continued as usual. And it's a very wonderful explanation. The daughter of King Vidarbha continued as usual to serve her husband, who was seated in a steady posture until she could ascertain that he had passed away from the body. So in this life, he takes the body of a woman, but he has a very exalted body as a woman, and she is so devoted to her exalted husband that she, now being alone and a widow in that forest, and again you're sucked into the drama, the story. You think, oh, you know, we've got we're lamenting that he was so attached, and then he has to become a woman in his next life, and then we think, oh, but she's such a great woman, but then her difficulties become so great that the king, what was the king's name? I remember reading it earlier. Malayadvaj, King Malayadvaj. So he was a so exalted Paramahamsa devotee, and Vidarbhi served him in so many ways. And then he leaves his body, and then she's lamenting, she's crying like anything. And again, we're thinking, oh, the poor lady. And it definitely is a difficult situation. But, and I'll just read that if I can. The most obedient wife thus fell down at the feet of her dead husband and began to cry pitifully in that solitary forest. Thus the tears rolled down from her eyes. Wow. So this material existence is certainly an ocean of tears. And everyone's crying, for goodness sakes. This problem, that problem, this thing, my children's situation, oh, the health of this one and the health of that one, the education, goes on and on and on. Thus the tears rolled down from her eyes. Wow. She then prepared a blazing fire with firewood and placed the dead body of her husband upon it. Oh my goodness me. This is real life, if you get what I mean. It brings you closer. When we hear these descriptions, it brings you closer to the reality. We know that, and we used to talk about that in India. When you go to India, you see life in the raw to some degree. I'm sure they're covering it up more and more as quote unquote material prosperity comes more and more. In India, you see, you go to Vrindavan, you see the hogs and the dogs, and they're there, the street dogs, and the hogs are lying and all this. So we understand what a hog is, and we understand what a dog is. But in the West, you see the dogs, they're everywhere, and they're being pampered and like children. Crazy world that we live in, you basically don't want too many children. You can have lots of dogs because, yeah, anyway, that's another whole big subject. So the life, when we hear the Bhagavatam, when we look to traditional cultures, we see a connection with people, we see a connection with the land, we see a connection with the food that we eat, we see a connection to the health of the body due to the food that we eat. Everything is connected and has its proper way of functioning. And we, the human being, usually we, quote unquote, stuff it up very badly when we interfere with the laws of nature and try to cut off from those realities and live in an illusory life, pampering life, trying to make adjustments to live forever in a comfortable way in this world, which we've described as a cactus. It's like a cactus, trying to get comfortable sitting on a cactus. Good luck. Not possible. Can't be done. But we refuse to deal with that reality. So Bhagavatam is establishing the knowledge is distinguished from illusion. So this is the illusion. And when this was finished, she lamented severely and prepared herself to perish in the fire with her husband. How glorious is this? It's so glorious that he is left in such a way where it can hardly be detected that he's left. So he's so fixed in his meditation. And his wife is so fixed in her devotion to her exalted husband, knowing that the goal of life is spiritual emancipation, is a performance of devotional service to the Supreme Godhead, and to go beyond this material life of a few years in this body. She knows, let me go to where my husband has gone. And she has so much conviction, so much faith, that voluntarily she's able to do that. And Srila Prabhupada in the purports mentions that later the British government stopped this practice, considering it inhumane. All glories to the British government. Why? Because people were being forced, ladies were being forced. They weren't at that state of developed consciousness. Possibly their husbands weren't at the state of developed consciousness where the wife felt that if I am absolutely devoted to my husband, then I will go there knowing that he has gone back home, back to Godhead. Has a very exalted destination. So the British saw that this was, yeah. So there's always, yeah. So we could say, oh, yeah, the British are more clever than these ancient Indians. No, that's not what we're saying. And the devotees can understand this very clearly and very easily. So Prabhupada says, however, from the early history of India, we find that when Maharaj Prikat died, he was survived by two wives, Madri and Kunti. The question was whether both should die or one should die. After the death of Maharaj Pandu, his wife settled that one should remain and the other should go. Madri would perish with her husband in the fire, and Kunti would remain to take charge of the 5 Pandava children. Prabhupada says, even as late as 1936, we saw a devoted wife. That was only not that long back, although it's a long time now, but 1936, we saw a devoted wife voluntarily enter the fire of her husband. My goodness me. This is real. And people say, oh, this is barbaric. Yeah, great. You can say that, but how exalted consciousness is required for these things, not by force, but out of quote unquote loving devotion. Anyway, Prabhupada goes into a great explanation of reestablishing where we got that. As the Supreme Personality of Godhead comes down upon this earth to reestablish the principle of religion, so his representative, the spiritual master, also comes to reestablish religious principles. It is the duty of the disciples to take charge of the mission of the spiritual master and execute it properly. Otherwise, the disciple should decide to die along with his spiritual master. In other words, to execute the will of the spiritual master, the disciple should be prepared to lay down his life and abandon all personal considerations. And that's just one of the verses. So verse after verse, purport after purport, Srila Prabhupada, on behalf of the Supreme Lord Krishna, in following this message of the Bhagavatam, is constantly bringing us back to the reality as distinguished from illusion. And as we mentioned earlier, this illusion is very powerful. It is extremely powerful. It is insurmountable. Daivahiya Shagunamai Mama Maya Duratyaya, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. This divine energy of mind, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is very difficult to overcome. But if you are able to learn the art of surrendering unto me, you can easily cross beyond it. That huge ocean of material suffering, crying the tears in so many situations, can be reduced to the amount of water in the hoofprint of a calf. Very easy to. And how is it reduced? By Krishna. He is able to withdraw that illusory energy and allow us to perceive what has to be perceived. So I have no idea. Yep, we're good. We're good for time, and I'm thinking there's something I saw earlier I wanted to share. So let us do that. 58 is the verse we've done. And what I did do, I'll just see if this is relevant. I went towards the end, and it's a very interesting ending to this chapter because the last verse is 65, and I just looked and found that after it, it's very interesting. It says the following is a glossary of some of the important words in this chapter. So Srila Prabhupada has decided to write a glossary because there's so many important words in this chapter. And then I thought, I'm just going to read that verse 65 because it will be done again, but it's in another 5 or 7 or 8 or 10 days. So I just want to read the purport and the translation. My dear King Prachinabhari, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cause of all causes, is celebrated to be known indirectly. Thus, I have described the story of Puranjana to you. Actually, it is an instruction for self-realization. Purport. There are many similar stories in the Puranas for self-realization. As stated in the Vedas, Paroksha Priya Ivahi Devaha. There are many stories in the Puranas that are intended to interest ordinary men in transcendental subjects, but actually these refer to real facts. They are not to be considered stories without a transcendental purpose. Some of them refer to real historical facts. One should be interested, however, in the real purport of the story. Indirect instruction is quickly understandable for a common man. So this is why Narada decided to speak in a way to King Prachinabhari. He wouldn't be able to understand directly. He wasn't ready to hear like that, but indirect instruction is quickly understandable for a common man, so that we hear this story and we think, oh, yes, that makes sense. And then you bring it to your own life and think, oh, yeah, okay, I better chalk a path through this. Continuing. Factually, the path of Bhakti Yoga is the path of hearing directly about the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu. But those who are not interested in hearing directly about the activities of the Lord, or who cannot understand them, can very effectively hear such stories and fables as this one narrated by Narada Muni. So that's why we've been hearing this subject matter. And to finish, I'm going to read this little word, one of the words in the glossary. So Prabhupada's going through these different words. They're all wonderful. There's one part where he says, Madirekshana, Madirekshana. Oh, so he says Madirekshana and full stop. Madirekshana refers to one whose eyes are so attractive that one who observes them becomes maddened by her. In other words, Madirekshana means a very beautiful young girl. According to Jiva Goswami, Madirekshana means the personified deity of bhakti. If one is attracted by the bhakti cult, he becomes engaged in the service of the Lord and the spiritual master, and thus his life becomes successful. Vaidarbhi, the woman, became a follower of her husband as she left her comfortable home for the service of her husband. A serious student of spiritual understanding must give up everything for the service of the spiritual master. As stated by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Yasya Prasada Bhagavat Prasada. If one wants actual success in life, he must strictly follow the instructions of the spiritual master. By following such instructions, one is sure to make rapid progress in spiritual life. The statement by Vishwanath Chakravarti is in pursuance of the following injunction from the Shvetashvatara Upanishad 6.23. Yashadeve para bhaktir yashadeve tatagoro tasyaite katitaryata prakashanti mahatmanaha. Translation. Only unto those great souls who have implicit faith in both the Lord and the spiritual master are all the imports of Vedic knowledge automatically revealed, end quote. In the Chandogya Upanishad, it is said, Acharyavan Purusho Veda. Translation. One who approaches a bona fide spiritual master can understand everything about spiritual realization. So I thought that was, again, making very clear that the only way to penetrate through the illusory energy that is completely covering the soul is to hear from the bona fide spiritual master about the words of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And everything else is more or less a waste of time. And that can be discussed in many other verses. So we'll finish at that point. If anyone has any short realizations, if there's any specific point that maybe has piqued your thoughts, something you might take away for today or into your thoughts, please feel free to unmute and just share that specific point, and then we can we've got maybe another 5 minutes or so. And if we don't have anything else, that's absolutely fine too. Sorry, I heard somebody scratch. Is that Nanda Raj?
Yeah, Hare Krishna, Prabhupada. Thank you for a spontaneous purport on this verse. We lost you for a while. I said, hey, what's happening?
Oh gosh. It's such is life.
Life is up and down.
Okay. So Nanda Raj, thank you very much for hosting us. We'll end the Bhagavatam there. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhayeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavabhyo namo namaha. Anantakoti Vaishnavavrinda ki jai. Praise Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. All glories to assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu, for your
Hare
nice class. Thank you. Hare Krishna.